Hi, I'm Kieron Moore, and you are watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hi everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I am happy to be joined by Kieron Moore. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great now that I'm speaking with you. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm really looking forward to diving into your work in season one of Boots on Netflix. But to start off, I know that you write poetry. So,
Yeah.
how have you refined your writing process between conveying your ideas on paper and then experimenting with form and structure to reach a final product?
I think it's just something that kind of I think the poems kind of grow with me. Like wherever I am at that stage in my life when I'm writing, like writing something that I do sort of every day. It's something that I don't really think about. I just write things down constantly, and sort of explore ideas. And I think the ones that I end up sticking with, they sort of reflect where I am. When I'm a bit more like free flowing and less stressed, my poems feel the same. If I feel a bit more uptight, they feel a bit more reserved. And I guess I just let the poem kind of writes itself, really. All of my better, well, the ones that I prefer, are ones that I can't really remember thinking too much about. They just sort of came out of me. I'm not really like I guess a classical writer. Like I don't, for a long time, I didn't write in stanzas. For a long time, I would just word vomit poems. And I liked the idea of like each line could be linked to the one before or after, and the poem could be kind of like whatever you wanted it to be. And then I guess recently, as I've started to explore, sort of stepping into like the visual space with them and the spoken word side, it's something where I've been a bit more like, okay, let's explore this idea of like the poem meaning something in each stanza, or sort of like breaking it up a little bit and being a bit more specific while still giving hopefully the reader and the audience the poem as theirs. I think it's a very tricky space with poetry because I've got friends with mixed opinions, and it's like the words belong to the reader. But then sometimes I'm kind of like, yeah, but it means this, and it doesn't mean that. It means all these different things. But I guess I just don't really put any limitation on it. I never started writing poetry for like monetary value or anything. I never shared them for a very long time. So I guess I just sort of like self explorations, really. It's like a cathartic thing for me. I sort of get the words out of me in whichever way they need to. Yeah.
Did you ever study or take any like English or creative writing courses, or how did you kind of come to poetry and like the form that you use today?
Um, so my dad used to write poems for my mum in her Christmas birthday cards, and like he put them on like little notes and put them in her like mug and stuff, and I would see them. And my dad was very like quite a reserved man, so I was always like really thrown by this like reservoir of passion coming out of this stone wall, and it was something that I think I wanted to steal from a very early age, and it was quite fascinating to me. Um, my first real poem was for my great grandma's funeral. I was at a boxing camp, so I couldn't go, and all my family went, and I wrote a poem, and then the church read it out, and everyone was like, "Oh my God!" When I come back, like your poem broke my heart, and I remember sort of being like, "Oh, words like hit people, like they have a value." I went to a school where it was kind of like you kind of got bullied for being smart, or like sort of having an opinion. It was like quite a toxic environment, to be honest. So I was quite shy and timid, really. I never wanted to open my mouth too much. But I had an English teacher that would kind of took a couple of us aside and noticed that we were kind of like lagging purposefully, and they would like just write stuff. And I remember that was the first time sort of like having a little bit of guidance with it, or someone sort of saying you can do this. And even then I was like lazy and never did anything with it. But it was something that I think I've always gone towards. Like I'd always write these little short stories. I mean, to my mum, and if me and my mum ever had a fight when I was a kid, I would like write her a letter, and then I'd come downstairs, and it's like written word was always something that I just naturally sort of was drawn to. And then I went to college, but I dropped out of college very early on a whim. I was very silly when I was younger. I was just very, I mean, it all works out, but I was very silly. And I remember my English literature teacher, I dropped out after like 2 months. I was so silly. I was just like, I'm not being taught. I'm a man. I'm gonna go and be a boxer. And then she called me crying, being like, please don't leave. You can write. And I always think back about that, and because I was just so stubborn at the time, I wonder what my life may, I love what I'm doing now, and it's like this was what I was meant to do. But it is of interest to me because I think the books that I've read and the opinions that I have and the way that I write is something that I've shaped myself. So I guess it's my own voice, which is quite beautiful. But I am curious what that could have looked like if I stuck around in the sort of educational writing space. Um, I don't think too hard about it though. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess it's just always been there really.
I was gonna ask, like, is it always in the back of your mind? But it's one of those things where you want to keep pushing forward, and it's never too late to learn and continue growing, like in the artistic, in the writing space. And you mentioned, being intentional with what you share because it is something so personal to you. And I know that you are becoming more comfortable sharing with others because you are working on a poetry book. Uh, Maybe tentatively titled The Burden of Caring. So, what details can you share about the upcoming collection and how you've been crafting it with your busy film schedule?
It's been an interesting one. Like Burden of Caring, when I see is like that was like sort of it's a working title. I'm toying between a couple of things right now. Um, I guess I just didn't know. I don't know. It was just like this thing of like I think eventually like my dream would be like, look, it'd be great to have a poetry book on shelves somewhere. But I just want to hold a book that says written by Kieron Moore and it's like got the poems in there, like a collation. So I just started to do it, I guess, during my break from Code of Silence. Once Code of Silence finished and I had like a couple of months before everything came out, I'd give myself a list of like three things to do, which was collate all of my Polaroids. I've got thousands of them from every job into like sections, write a script and start writing the poetry book. They were like my three things. As long as you do this year, like you've done some of yourself. So I guess I started by just so all I have these notebooks with poems in and like these are like this is this year's poetry book, but I have like seven of them and they're like full. So I started by just being like, right, let me just type them all out like in order and let's just put them all out there, sort of have them in a space, and then I'll start going back and sort of like sieving through them. I'm very lucky that I've got a couple of friends that are like journalists, but also they like poetry. So I've got a couple of people that I run my poems by, and be like, oh, what do you think of this? Do you think blah blah blah? And they proofread some, and I said like, pick out your favorites because again, still want to be like an audience thing. And then I had a meeting with a now retired publisher, and we talked about like sort of maybe it's something that I think what's ended up happening is my poems from the last couple of months have become a little collection, and I'm starting to wonder whether or not I do it in collections as opposed to like one big thing, and then eventually I have like like I've got poetry books upstairs of like all of my favorites, and they have their specific sort of collections that were obviously released specifically, but then they have like this onslaught of just like everything else that no one ever read. And I think I have this beautiful idea of like maybe doing a couple, dabbling, and then dropping this whole thing of just all of them. And it's kind of, it could be years away, it could be something that's constantly changing. But I'm very much working on it. It's something very much in the front of my mind. But again, because there's no like real like it's not there to pay my bills. It's something that I love. I just want to have. Is like there's not so much pressure on it. I think for a little while, sort of like circling back to your question of like between the busy schedule, is like there was a point where it started to feel quite like I was writing for other people to read the poem, and I really pulled back from that in the past year, and that's been really healthy. Like I write just for me again, and that's really exciting, and it kind of takes that pressure away. So it will come. I'm still maybe sooner rather than later, but it will come. It will come. There's also very, like I've got to be realistic as well. There's also a very real world where, you know, my poems could have their moment if I become a more household name, like people want to get close to you and understand you, I guess, in this career, and you can be in control of that, I think. And my poems are definitely a way of that. But I have this thing that my acting coach says to me all the time. It's like he's like, whoa, they're really like, you're really sort of tearing yourself open here. And I'm just like, imagine what I'm scared to say. So like there's I'm pretty brave on that front. But no, it'll come. It'll come.
I think it is extremely brave to share, and I know people really do miss what you posted on like Instagram and TikTok, your spoken word, and I do have to
Yeah.
give shout outs to a couple of poems because there are traces that you can still find online. There was a line in one called Overthink, which was maybe it matters enough when it doesn't matter at all, which I just loved. And then in Typewriter, you said, I share the same teeth with my favorite dinner lady, Mom, our smile is worth celebrating, which is so sweet and wholesome. And I'm sure it meant a lot to her. So I imagine like at the same time, it's easy to write from personal experience and about personal subjects. It's also very scary. So you're doing a lot with what you say through writing.
That means a lot. I mean, to hear my own lines quoted to me is kind of like, whoa. 'Cause I forget sometimes, that they've had some impact on some. I was very much open after Vampire Academy. I did like a lot of readings on TikTok, and it was quite a nice thing. It was something that actually made me braver as a person. But yeah, I think I don't know who said this. I think it was someone recently. I'd seen a video of it, and it was just like so true. And someone was just like, all you can do is tell the truth. I tell the truth all the time, and I think I try my best to constantly be truthful. And I think with the poem, sometimes there's a tendency to sugarcoat, or some people are fantastic writers, way more like talented than I am, and their use of metaphor and stanza and iambic is beautiful. And it's just like that. I'm not that kind of writer. Like I think I could sit there and write something if I put my mind to it, but the things that kind of flow from me naturally is um. It's just already what's inside. It's like I've got another one that we're currently in the process of making into like a short film, and it's called Working Classed, and I'm so proud of it. But it's like I say a line in that, which is something that hidden from a lot of my poems, which is that I come from a place where there's loads of swearing, and I know in my relationships with other people, like from I've been very lucky to like make friends across the pond, date people from across the pond. It's like quite triggering for them. They don't understand the way me and my family kind of speak to each other, where I'm from in Manchester. And I noticed that in a lot of my poems, I was like, I was never swearing. And I know it sounds so silly because I've tried to keep them sort of whatever. But in that poem, I just kind of let it out. I was kind of like, oh my God, I'm finding my voice a little bit more. But my voice just keeps changing. I think that's the beautiful thing, just allowing it to keep changing. So it's like when I write, it's like I always wanted to write a diary. Always. When you watch when you're a kid, you're like, oh, but then I remember as a kid, I'd start writing a diary, but anytime the day was good, I didn't write anything. You know what I mean? I just forget about it. Like it's just, so it was kind of like whatever. And then when I read the poems, when I was typing them up, it's like when I hold a photograph, like I like Polaroids because I remember taking it. And I think it's like the poems I say to everyone that ever asks me is when I read them back, I know exactly where I was when I wrote it. I know exactly how I was feeling when I wrote it. I know that these things mean different things. And then when people go, it means this, I'm like, maybe. Thank God there's another interpretation. Um, but yeah, there's much more poetry on the way. I can't stop.
Well, it's all very exciting, and there's such a beauty in evolution, and also, hearing how other people interpret what you say. We will get into Boots now,
Hmm.
and I will note for all those watching that we are discussing spoilers, so please make sure you've finished season one before continuing. In preparation for your role, I know you read Greg Cope White's The Pink Marine and did your own research on prisons and crime in the early 90s. So, can you expand on what specific elements you took from these resources and how they informed you going into production?
Yeah, first of all, if you haven't binged Boots yet, what are you doing? Go back and do it and listen. Yeah, no, I think it was like a whenever there's any sort of source material and you get an audition, it's very lucky, like a lot of stuff is not. It's just that you're lucky if you get the script, at the audition process. And the fact that there was a book there was something that's like an actor's dream, even if your character's not in it, you get a sense of the story and the vibe. And I think also, because it's something that like this is not the first time I've ever told I mean, Massive the Air was kind of like always truthful, but this was different. This was like someone's life, and I was about to meet this person, and I think it just humanizes the whole process a little bit. So I actually read I read The Pink Marine whilst I was auditioning, and I saved the last chapter until I got the job. I didn't want to finish the book until I got the job. So that was obviously very informative, and the characters are obviously like loosely mentioned in certain ways. Obviously, the characters like mold into each other. But for me, I think Slovacek specifically is I didn't really pay much attention to the marine aspect. I remember the breakdown for his character being like he's like the ideal marine. He's quite moldable, he's physically strong, he's like kind of like yeah, bit dim in some ways. Like just got that thing about him. Like got a bit of a bite. I was far more interested in like what that is as a person. Like I never really think about the things that we say as the character. I always think about why. And I watched a lot of documentaries on like Rikers Island and like the juvenile system in like Staten Island and New York during that time and sort of crime in the area and like I guess poverty as well, you know. I even looked a bit like at like orphanages because I knew that he would come from like a bit of a broken home and sort of like the that was all stuff to me that I think it's mad because I don't think it doesn't differ that much anywhere. It's like these themes were quite similar people. It's like I know that Peter Hall kindly, the director of So One, defended my ability, I guess, because of where I'm from. Manchester has shades of crime. I grew up in a boxing gym with police officers, criminals, and barristers all in the same place. You know, as soon as you walk through that door, it was just mutual respect, and that was something that I just wanted to sort of really hone in on, really, because it comes about a bit of an attitude and a fearlessness that I guess I don't have. I've always been a little bit scared of authority growing up, and Slovacek clearly wasn't, and it's like this guy got this opportunity to be like brave and do all the things that. I feel like Slovacek's the kind of character that gets to say and do all the things that sometimes we all want to do, not out of like desire, but just out of like, what does that feel like? What does someone that's just like that brash and sort of defiant and sort of disrespectful, what does that feel like? And I got very lucky to do that. But yeah, I was watching a lot of documentaries on prison systems and like figure it out a little bit.
Irrespective of what could further be explored in a second season, like, can you share some insight into how you interpreted Slovacek's specific upbringing and his hardened past, including the criminal activity he does mention in the show, and what led up to the point in his life where he had to make a choice between prison or the Marines?
Yeah, it's interesting because Slovacek's story actually changed as as the strikes happened, and I don't think I'm allowed to say this. I don't know. Like Slovacek was originally meant to leave. Like Slovacek was originally meant to. I think that the dad storyline was originally Slovacek's. That was my audition scene. Like it was Slovacek's dad that had died, and so I think for the first couple of episodes that was very informative for me. And then obviously when the story changed, me and Andy spoke about it, and I think what happened, and I think they won't be mad at me saying this, and it's something very beautiful that they both said to me towards the end was like I'd managed to bring a real heart to Slovacek that just made you want to try and fix him a little bit. Not that he's going to be fixable. I think he has a very realistic arc. I think he's never a saint by the end. He's still got a long way to go. But he's just gained a camaraderie. He's just gained something like he's opened his eyes a little bit. It's like the scene with Brandon at the end when he like tries to talk to him. That's like real male therapy, Brandon keeps calling it. And it's like it is, it's just this masculinity of like, I don't know how to explore my emotions. And that's something that I was constantly thinking about with him. I just think he's never had the opportunity to be good or to sort of understand different ways. I didn't just want to make him I just didn't want him to be like just a plain old boring bully that we always see. Like, and I think at the beginning of the casting process, we probably argued about that a little bit because I was just like, you can pull anyone off the street and just play mean. But it's like all the kids that gave me problems when I was younger or stuff, it was a reason, it was a lack of guidance. And I think there's a very real world where you watch Slovacek and look, he's not very nice at the beginning. And he's still not very nice at the end. But there's like a bit of like when I watch him, I go like, oh, he just doesn't know how to make friends. That's just how he is. Like even the bits with like Ray on the track and that, it's just something he's used to. He's used to being like put down to connect. Like, and I think that's really an interesting perspective. It's like the Cameron stuff. I don't think for a second that Slovacek is any way intelligent enough or cares enough to bother about Cameron's sexuality. It's just the first thing that comes out of his mouth because it's like he just doesn't understand anymore. He's like, oh, you're not like me, so you must be this. It's like he doesn't have a personal problem with anyone. He just kind of doesn't like anyone, and I think that's quite an interesting thing. It's just constant competition, and I think competition comes from insecurity. It's never been loved. I think that's quite something we talked about a lot. There was a scene that was cut and I think it's worked better, which was Slovacek's mum was going to be at graduation. And then, but it was like a really, I think I'm allowed to say this, but yeah, we cut it, and I think it's way better. I like the idea of him. We never know if he has any support, and I think it's better that he goes through graduation on his own. But it was just this like little moment of her being like, everyone's getting well done, and she just looks at him and was like, "What happened to your face?" It's like there's no love there, and we talked about this a lot, me and Andy, and it was kind of like he's. I think the person that becomes probably one of the most loyal by the end is probably Slovacek. He needs a family like this. He's in love with the idea of like having brothers. He's never going to be. He's still going to be a menace, and I think if we went back, it'd take some work, but. Yeah, I just like the idea of him. Not like I'm not trying to like humanize him and make him just feel completely misunderstood. Look, he's a dick, and I'm not. There's no better way to say it than that. Like he's not very nice, but I just think it comes. There's just loads of room to explore someone like that, and I think we barely scratched the surface in season one, which I think gives loads of room potentially. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if people are looking at him and he's made enough of an impression. I don't know if people want to know more than him. But when I watch a character like that, I'm curious. I'm like, I want to know why. But I also just tried to not give him that much of an emotional intelligence about it all. Just wanted him to sort of just do, say, think less, just do, you know. And that was a really interesting thing for me to do because I clearly think so. But
I think it'd be interesting to explore more of his past. And it's one of those things where he's so used to, dishing out and then receiving the same kind of treatment. So that's with respect to connecting with the other recruits. Aside from the obvious alpha male physicality he has, like what kind of key attributes did you focus on in character with respect to his demeanor, like how you carried yourself and his overall personality?
yeah, I think it was that thing of like, there's a lot of trust that goes on with the other castmates. And, when you first get there, there's 150 boys every day on set. And there's a bit of ego, And my thing is, I'm playing the bad man, boys. You got to let me be the bad man. You're relying on your colleagues respecting you as the character. And then I remember, like, also that thing of like, but if you don't, I'm going to make you. Like, and that was something that it's trust. It's a dance. It's kind of like, it's checking in with each other and be like, look, I'm going to go all the way here. But then at the end, we're gonna have a little cuddle about it. It's gonna be okay. Like especially with Miles. I remember the day when I first like sort of banged Miles' face, and I remember feeling so guilty about it. And then after we had a cuddle, it's like, no, no, you're fine. So we had like a little cuddle about it, and it's like, that just takes a little bit of professionalism. I guess the other thing for him was just like I really just imagined like him to be quite shoulder heavy. Like it was just something that like I remember as soon as I got to do him. I was like thinking a lot about like that prison sort of vibe, like this the shoulders, the dominance. It was something that sort of took care of itself really. But also, luckily, Slovacek's massively based off Jime Check in the book. That's the original sort of link, and there was a lot in there about Jime Check. So Jime Check would constantly like be walking around like yawning and scratching his sack and sort of like doing all this stuff in the book, and I was like gold. So like it just gave me like this freedom to be naughty. Do you know what it was? It's like I got to be naughty on set in the confines of the character. Like there's little things that obviously haven't made the final cut where I'm like, because it's obviously so much going on, but like it's in them little moments, like he's constantly alive, I guess. Like, there's a couple of times the camera pans past me, wake up and I'm like scratching myself, I'm like falling over. There's a scene where Anna walks past and as the captain and everyone's like this and a Slovacek I was kind of like looking and then the director was like what you doing I was like Slovacek would do that and he was like you're right you do that and it's just like it was like this freedom to just be like what am I going to do today. I never thought about him too much like so like I think every character kind of like derives a process that creates its own process for you like some actors probably have a singular process for everything that they do. I don't know but I know for me that each character just takes a different thing from me. Like when I played Dimitri, it was very like meticulous, and I had like post-it notes all over my room of just thoughts, and I was just like constantly like thinking about it. Liam from Code of Silence was a bit more like he was just in his head, so I kept all of my process thoughts in my head and just kind of was like constantly trying to like navigate them and see what that felt like. And then with Slovacek, I was kind of like he don't think about anything. So I just didn't really prep much. I just kind of like had ideas, left them, and then it was just like when we heard action, I was like, what can I do here? What was Slovacek do? Just like let it happen. It was like it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I know the B roll of Slovacek is probably like criminal. I would love to see it. But I think, which is just exciting. I think if we went to go back, I think it'd be interesting to see him try to be more refined because I don't know if he ever could be. And that's the beauty of him. I think he's very undeniably himself. Yeah.
I think to live in a character and have it flow out of you so naturally, it's a talent in itself. And I know viewers thought you were a true New Yorker, so a compliment to your versatility. And of course, I know you work with a dialect coach as well for that.
Yeah, no, honestly, that is the best thing. When we did the job, so I said to my team, I was like, look, like I'm an ancillary character in this and I'm gonna have fun. I was like, but a big win is if people just go, the New York kid was good or funny or I hated the New York kid and people have been commenting on my videos being like, you're not from New York. I'm just like, that's the best thing ever because I put a lot of work into it and it's like it's not lost on me that there was probably a New York kid out there that could have done a slower check, but I wanted it so bad that I was going to make sure that I'd earned it. And um, also, if I want to have any form of career, I have to be able to sort of shift. But now it's like I can't stop doing American accents now. Like I'm in my house constantly doing American. I call a pizza in New York and I'm like doing the Slovacek accent. It's like bled into me. But no, that's been such a huge relief. Yeah, that's been I can't lie, that's been one of the probably the biggest wins for me, really. It's a huge compliment, especially because my accent's quite thick. People really are surprised. They're like, "Oh, like I didn't realize you sounded like that." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And it's all that even that's a scary thing. You're on set, and all the boys, as soon as I meet them, I was there late, and they were like, "Come on, let's hear the accent." I'm like, "No, like you'll wait until the day." But shout out to Joy Ellison. She's incredible. I will work with her hopefully for the rest of my career. She really helped me she helped me believe in myself with it, I guess. I think the voice was so important for Slovacek. It was something that like was really just made me feel like him. It was really fun. And yeah, yeah, I miss it.
Well, I mean, hopefully for a second season or more. So fingers
Mhm.
crossed for that. Early on, Slovacek develops rivalries with fellow recruits Nash and Cameron Cope. You kind of spoke about Cameron earlier on that he doesn't really have any kind of personal problem with him. He just doesn't understand him. So for different reasons for those rivalries. But can you tell me about the targets for him? Maybe focus on Nash and like what is his
Yeah.
intent, keeping him on his radar as camp progresses?
Yeah. Briefly about the Cameron thing again, I guess it's that thing of like you're just different from me, but it was also like power. It's that thing of like I can push this person around and no one's going to stop me. And anyone that tries to stop me, then they will become the target. It's like it's just an asserting dominance thing. I think we often don't put. My dad used to always say, I don't even want to say this, but my dad used to always say this thing to me when I was younger, like if I ever got into like a fight or into trouble or anything, he'd be like, go for the big one. It's like take the big one out and then everyone else will run away. So it's kind of the opposite. So it's kind of like I'm gonna bully the easy victim. And it's like there's a beautiful moment where Nash retaliates, like everyone does Firewatch, and Slovacek just stares at him. And he's like, you stop me then. Challenge he's not scared of anyone. I love that concept. I love that he's like, we had a real conversation at the beginning, and I went up to Andy and I was like, has he actually got it like that? Like, or is it all the facade? Like, because that's a very important thing. I need to know, is it all just in his head and it's pretend and it's like he got bullied when he was in prison? And we agreed that it's like, no, it's way more interesting if he has it like that. He is that guy. And that was something that was quite sort of freeing for me. The Nash thing I think is really interesting because I think the Nash thing is like, Slovacek just wants to be the best. Like there is no other like I think it's just a very natural competitiveness. And I think he knows that Nash is good. And I think that's the thing that's quite makes him a bit more layered than a casual bully. It's like he respects that Nash is good and he wants to prove himself against the best. And I think same with Liam, sorry, as Ray, like it's that thing of like, oh, we come from as soon as he hears Air Force, I gotta beat him. I've got a bit of man. And I think it's like it's actually something that's quite healthy, in a really, really toxic way. It's like people always say that like comparison and competitiveness like not good, but I'm always like, no, it brings the best out of you in ways. We was having a real conversation, me and the military advisors about like obviously in episode 5 when Slovacek shoots the bird. What a shot. no birds were harmed, I promise. But it's kind of like, I think he does these things constantly that you're kind of like, ah, he's going to be a nightmare. And I was kind of like, would that work? And he was like, someone like that could end up being your best Marine. You just have to work out what, or one of your best teammates. He said, but you have to work out and weaned out quickly if they're going to be a danger to everyone else. So Slovacek gets that choice, and he makes that choice eventually. But yeah, I think them things. That's what gets him through instantly. It's just that thing of like, I have the idea that Slovacek never. I think he's the one that probably is the most likely to get to the end. Like I think you just know that he's got it in him, I guess. Max as Sullivan has this wonderful line, which is kind of like an Easter egg to our friendship when he's like doing the brilliant like 96 scene, then he gets in my face and he goes, "Some of you think you are invincible." And it's obviously very, the moments were like choreographed, it was beautiful. But I think that's the thing with Slovacek. It's not that he can, it's just that he knows that he can. And it's about making that a bit healthier. Yeah, and then by the end, I think I don't know, I think he still feels a little bit invincible. But for like a bit, I think there's proof now, I guess. There's a bit of pride. He's done something that's worthy of saying that he is. I don't know.
We'll talk a bit more about those kind of specific scenes in the back half of the
Yeah.
season, but I'm curious, which was your favorite training week activity to film?
Ooh, the obstacle course was fun. The obstacle course was really fun because I also like I knew that I had to do it on camera, chasing him, chasing Miles. So I was kind of like keeping it back a little bit. So it was like quite a nice moment of like watching everyone like go for it, and it was fun. We had a good time. And then the day when we actually did it, I was just like like going after him. That was really fun. Honestly, and not that I'm not like obviously I'm from England. Guns aren't really on our radar and stuff, but like the putting together the gun and unputting it together was quite fascinating to me. That was like I can't believe I now know how to do that. That was quite an interesting skill. Um, but then honestly, other than that, every single bit that we did was just so much fun. Like all of it was so beautiful. Like even like doing like the bayonet practice, but the the the, the obstacle course definitely stands out to me. The slide for life on the rope. It was just really, this job's so beautiful because you get to like do stuff that you just never get to do, and you kind of like, oh, I got to live this life for an afternoon. And yeah, I think they all had a really hard, I think production had a really hard time telling us no. They were like, someone else, the standing's going to do it. I was like, no, they're not. I'm going to do it. Like, I want that experience. Um, yeah, probably like the one that sticks in my head the most is the obstacle course, but it's not even about it's not, I think this is the beauty of like been fortunate enough to work and have a couple of experiences now is like, I love the show and it belongs to the audience and there's certain moments, even the memories of doing the practice, but the truth is it's all the in-between moments that I love. It's when I watch a scene now and I go, I'm stood behind that wall holding my laughing because Dom's just made me laugh and they're rolling and it's like it's them little moments that like stick with me. Yeah.
The obstacle course was great, and I loved all the scenes between, Miles like looking back and seeing you staring him down and trying to like run away from, and then you kicking him on the rope, which I know there was like safety measures
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
place for all of
Yeah,
it, but
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
fantastic. So Slovacek, as you alluded to, his future at camp is later tied to Nash and his performance after Slovacek shoots the bird at the rifle range. It's the first time we start to see him become a bit more desperate because his future had seemed so certain up to this point. So, can you expand on why he shot the bird and what he is feeling internally with the possibility of being sent to prison?
I think it's an interesting one with the bird one. I think because it is like why? Why does he do that? And I think the only sort of explanation is that thing of like being invincible. I can do whatever I want, sort of thing. And that's the only way I can explain it. Really. It's just that impulsivity do you know what? It's probably one of the only moments in the show that if I could go back, I'd probably try and do something different with it because I think and maybe it still comes across. I think it's one of the only moments we can see why he gets in trouble in his other life. It's just an impulsivity. He's got that thing in the back of his head, just like, just do it. Just have a go. Like it's like. I imagine him being like that when he stole the car, when he gets arrested, or when he beats the guy with a baseball bat. It's just that little moment of being like, okay, now I'm doing it, and then it's just I'm in, and he has that little moment of like, oh, I did it, and then reality hits him again. Oh, I should have done that. Um, so I think that that invincibility, but also tied in with that impulsivity, something that he has to learn to control. That becomes his challenge then. The tie into to Nash, I think is I wish we got to explore it even more. I think it's a very beautiful moment. There's a couple of bits that were taken out, but I think it still lands. And I think it's Slovacek's never had to rely on anyone other than himself. He's got through everything on his own. Now he's being told that someone else is in control of his destiny, and I think that's terrifying to him. And it's the first time it's like, like even when he gets in trouble in other ways, he's still in control of it. He can still, I can stop, I can change, I can blah blah blah. This is like he's relying on someone else. And it's really interesting because there's a moment, it's like a flicker of a moment. That's the way I always seen it was like, it's like when he's shooting against Nash before the bird, and he's like, two, like, you're not shooting for shit, what's going on? And then he realizes when McKinnon says to Nash, like, you're trying to wash out on purpose. Slovacek's insecurities are there. He's like, oh, I thought I was winning. I thought I was better than you, but I'm not. Like you were purposely trying to not be good, and that kind of I think that messes with his head. Like, and then it's this all these things at once, and then I think it's just that complete fear. He doesn't want to go back to prison. Doesn't want to go to prison. We talked about it. He's very he is street smart. He's not like intelligent, but he's street smart. We always talked about him being like quite perceptive. Um, he clearly gets people. The first episode, he says to Ray straight away about like that comparison between this kid that has to be perfect. He just knows. He's very like I guess he's insightful in like a little boisterous, triggering way. But yeah, I think when that moment happens, we see what he has a decision to make. Like, what does he want to be? And I think it's like one of my favorite moments in the whole show is when he says thank you to Nash. So the only time Slovacek ever says thank you, and it's so masculine. It's so like it's almost like makes me sad when I see it because I'm like, he even doesn't know how to do that. It's just kind of like 238, 239. Thanks. You know what I mean? It's like it's just quite pure actually. He's got like a lot of emotional work to do. Um, but then I think it's hilarious because then by episode 6 he's like he really wants to be a Marine. Like he really wants to be there. He's like controlling the kitchen and I think, everyone just needs that wake up call. And I think his is obviously that very realistic thing of like, oh, I can't really get away with it here. I will go to prison. And life flashes before his eyes. And I think in that beautiful moment, something is birthed between him and Nash. And I think it's something that I would love to keep exploring. Like, I think it's such a realistic relationship. I think we see shades of it in many things. Like, Remember the Titans comes to mind, like the friendship that they form through their like differences. And it's actually from like a mutual respect. It's something that I would love to explore. I would love to sort of this idea of like, Slovacek still being that dog on a leash that's still got that bite about him, but Nash kind of like keeps him in check, and it's like that. I think that would just be such an interesting dynamic. But we'll see, we'll see, we'll see.
It's really interesting to see that version of Slovacek letting his guard down, and of course, that being like the turning point to him putting in a bit more effort
Mm.
to befriend his platoon and be a team player. And the kitchen was so funny because he
Oh.
was the one getting annoyed at people talking so much, and he's like, "What is wrong with you people?" But at Nash's urging, Slovacek later tries to talk to Cody after his
Yeah,
father's passing. The conversation is less than ideal. Is it safe to say this is new territory for him? And he does lack that ability to empathize with others.
yeah. I think that was an interesting scene. That like I think I got like 3 takes at it, and I remember speaking to Andy between it. The writing's really beautiful in that moment. You could make that really understanding and really have depth, like like comparing it to like his dad and like what I would do, and it was just kind of like it's something we talked about, which was like, it was like he thinks he's doing a great job. He really believes that he's doing a good job, and that's like really quite sweet and sad and funny, but like yeah, it's like brand new territory for him. And it's like, what does someone that doesn't know how to do that do in that situation? Talks about himself. Like, and it was kind of, but I think the gesture is really beautiful. And yeah, I love that scene so much because it's kind of like two boys just being like, ooh, I don't know. And it's like, it's just very much not me. Like, I'm very, like, I think I'm quite compassionate and I'm kind of like good in them scenarios. So it was really fun to sort of like, have like empty brain. You know what I mean? Like that's quite a really fun thing to sort of imagine. And it's like I love how he's kind of like by the end he's like, yeah, yeah, that was good. If I was you, I'd go home. And it's like he's so like he doesn't even realize how insensitive it comes across, like or whatever. Um, I think that's what would be quite nice. I just think there's loads of room. That's what I'm saying. Like I think by the end of the show, Slovacek is far from reformed, he's like I just think there's been a bit of a glimmer, it's a bit of a he tried. But then I think that's the moment where, he jumps out of the line to stop Cody making this decision. I think that's actually a really powerful moment. And I think it gets lost a little bit in how amazing Brandon's performance is in the relent. And I'm so proud of him for that. I know he worked hard but I think there is this really that's the kind of support that Slovacek can give. The talking is hard, but I can throw myself in front of a 250-pound animal to try and help him because now I care, and I kind of, Slovacek risks his own becoming a Marine in that moment. I think, but he also leaves the line, like he could be like that. That's the final stretch. So I think is this shades of there's shades of a Marine coming through. They all go on this beautiful journey by the end. Like they all have their arc of becoming a Marine. I remember I talked about this previously where I was kind of like every single one of them thinks they know themselves when they join the Marines, and they all think they've got it figured out, and they've not. And they have by the end they have to make a decision like, if I want to be a Marine, I have to let go of this idea of myself, and I have to sort of surrender to change and to lack of understanding. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. That's how we have to do that quite a lot in all of our lives. Mm.
And with each character, it's something that's so personal and ingrained to each individually. So I love that they're all on their own paths. And you mentioned trying to prevent Cody from going after
Mm.
John, and that was such an emotional scene. I was talking to Blake about it, and he said watching Brandon's eyes flicker in that moment when he looks up is something that he will always remember. And for Slovacek, do you think he had any sadness watching that happen? Of course, also pain getting elbowed in the face, but watching, his guy Bam Bam being subdued and taken away when they're on their final stretch.
I think it's that thing of like anyone can go, I think there's a very there's a very I could sit here and make this as like, in-depth analysis as like Kieron wants to do. From Slovacek's perspective, it's like he just gets his nose broken and he slams down to the floor. And then he looks down and his mate's now being dragged away and he's in pain. And it's like emotional pain. And as much as like, I think Slovacek understands that, but it's that thing of like, it's almost like all at once. It's like what's even happening? You know what I mean? Like this is now gone from like something so frivolous and fickle to this huge thing. And I think I think there's only two people that he ever like expected to be at the finish line with, and I think it's Cody and I think Hicks. I think he has a weird little relationship with Hicks. It's like kind of off screen but in between moments. But I think I don't know. I want to give the right answer of like, if Slovacek was truly a good person, like I want to say that like, he put himself between someone but I think at the end of the day, if I'm being honest, it's like he's kind of like tough luck, like I tried my best, I did what I could do, and now it's like you've made your bed, mate. You know what I mean? And I think that's it's sad saying that out loud, but it's probably true. It's like when we get to the next bit and they like carry some stuff and he's like, I pitched in enough. Like I got my nose broken. I'm not carrying that shit. Like, that's not happening. So he's still there. He's still very much Like he did, like I think it's these things, and I think that's why he's so realistic. It's like it's not just like, oh, he's changed and he's now like does everything right. I still think it's like he'll probably get back and like at the bar, there probably was a moment where he was like, I wish Cody was here. But another part of it is like he's so smacked and like having a good time with his mates that they didn't even think about it. You know what I mean? And I think that's a very that's going to be an interesting thing for me if we go again to navigate. Yeah.
I do think that's really valid because it comes up a couple different points, but I feel like Slovacek's always been of the mindset that, if you can't make the cut, then that's it. Like you don't deserve to be here. So it's one of those things where he still has that mentality where, oh, like tough luck, too bad. But I am hoping that there's a sliver of him that misses Cody because they did kind of have, that I don't want to say bromance, but he did consider him more of an equal, especially
Yeah.
at the start of camp. And at the bar, I love the shaking of hands between Slovacek and Cameron. So can you take me through that scene from your perspective and having Slovacek take the initiative?
That's my favorite moment in the whole show. I'm so glad that they let me have it. Um, I think it's this thing. I mean, Greg talked about this post-release, and it was like Cameron. By the end, I would say is the most formidable Marine. Cameron is the one that has proved himself as a Marine by the end of it. Like he's really put his boys before him, and he's mentally strong, and he's got a lot. He's fighting them demons. There's still work to go, but I feel like he's the Marine. They all have like earned their stripes, kind of thing. But I think the only person that Cameron ever needed to get approval from was himself. And then by the end, there's this little beautiful moment that the one person that he really didn't fucking need it from gives it him. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. It's like the handshake was never in the script. But I said to Andy, I was like, I'm going to do the handshake. I don't care what any of you say. I said, trust me, I think it needs to happen. And it's kind of like shades of the first altercation of the masturbation bit in the bathroom. There's an intimacy, it's close, it still feels a little bit volatile. And I think it's just this like, it's such a pure moment. And I also love that I don't know if people are noticing it, but it's like in this moment of trying to be a friend, Slovacek still doesn't have his own thought. He quotes Dom, he quotes Nash. When Nash says to go and speak to Cody, he goes, um, because that's what Marines do. And Cody, and then Slovacek kind of like snorts and like whatever, and he's like, and because I'm asking, go and do it. And in this moment, he touches like, yo, I heard what you did for Jones. It was like, I heard what you did for Cody. He still can't like accept that he's got a little bit of good in him. So, or doesn't understand it. So the only way he can do it is that he looks at Nash and he looks back and he goes like, that's what Marines do. I understand that now. I get what that meant yesterday in this moment. And I think, he doesn't let it bleed out. He doesn't let it be a big moment. He shakes his hand and then it's like, let's get drunk. And I think just, as an actor, you kind of like, there's so many moments that I could have ate up and tried to be like really like emotional and show people what I could do with like depth. And it would have been Slovacek, you know what I mean? And I think that's been like my favorite thing about him. He's like he's so sort of just does he's not got as much depth as anyone else that I've played, and that's quite a nice thing. And in that, there's loads of room. But yeah, arguably my favorite moment of the whole show. And I just think it feels really relevant. Like the shaking of hands between them two, I just think feels a bit like, look, we're not like best mates, but I'm on your side. I feel like Slowich is the kind of person you want on your team. I think he's very loyal by the end. I think that's what it is. I think that's my I might not like you all, but this is my Marine Corps. Like this is our boys, this is our squad. And I think that kind of goes back to the thing you were saying about like, he probably does miss Cody, and I think he will. But there's also that thing of like, I think Slovacek is hyper aware from the very beginning. Like, yo, you all need to pull your weight because I don't want you behind me. Like, I don't want to have to rely on you. You get me on your team. I get to be this thing, then I know I'm gonna go all the way to protect myself and the squad, and I've got to rely on you. I think there's like that's kind of him. It's like he wants the strongest people on his team, and by the end, I think he considers Cameron one of them. It's kind of like, yo, I'm glad. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a respect thing. Mm.
I think that there is a lot of trust. at the end of the season. And I love that you kind of mentioned he doesn't linger longer than he needs to in those moments and in those scenes. And I think that does require a lot of like kind of self-control as an actor as well. Is there anything you would like to see or explore if renewed for a second season, specific to your character or even other storylines?
Um, I'd like I think I'd like to understand Slovacek a little bit more, like why he is the way he is. I think there's room to sort of understand that, maybe get some perspective. I also think um like look, if we were just completely riffing and like a lot of the casualties during that war were like American on American soldiers. I think that's a very interesting storyline for Slovacek. Um, that would be something quite interesting, either on the receiving end or he causes something. And I think that would be really interesting. I think the other thing is, which fascinates me a little bit, is I don't know, I don't know the answer to this, but like I think it's very interesting ideas hover around the idea that all of the people that you think are going to be great in this war actually hate it. Like, I don't like it. Let's see, you know. I have to be like a bit honest. Like I think that Slovacek's game. I think he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be a Marine, I'm gonna go to war. I wasn't here just to play like hopscotch on the obstacle course. I'm here to like be a Marine. But we'll see. There's also like that war was like quite stale in a lot of like forget like like there's a lot of waiting about. There was a lot of like whatever. There's also a very real world where Slovacek doesn't get to go. It's like he's like and it's like we'll see. But I think yeah, that'd be an interesting thing to navigate the idea of like how loyal he is or causing some sort of issue. I really like the idea of characters like Slovacek where you kind of like you give them an opportunity to nearly be good and you take it away from him. I think that'd be interesting. But other than that, I just think I just hope audiences like as much like I know people are like hating him, and then by the end they kind of feel like they like him a little bit, and it's quite nice and not nice. Like they give him a bit more time. I think it would be nice to sort of. I never want to humanize him. I just want to see what's underneath. I see why he's like that. It'd be good to sort of explore that a little bit, I think. Yeah.
How was your experience working with the crew and creative team, particularly your showrunners and their vision, any of the writers, directors, and the conversations that you clearly had and dialogue over your character as well?
It was such a collaborative thing, I guess, and the team was so beautiful. They all really cared about making this great. They should have been a 6 month job, and we all knew each other for 2 years, but like because of the strikes, and so we all seen the best and worst of each other. And we all seen each other scared. Like, is this going to happen? And blah blah blah. But I think it was just immense trust. Everyone wanted it to be great, and everyone, it's a very like it's an interesting thing because you kind of like excuse me, you kind of like share this character with everyone. Like every character informs each other's character, and that's one thing. But then also the idea of what Slovacek is before I get to get my hands on him is probably very different from when I finish putting my hands on him. It's like this exchange, and you kind of like make this baby, and you kind of like hope that that you dress it well, and that's kind of it really. But no, I was very fortunate to work with Andy, who I think is remarkably talented and so intelligent. Jennifer, Cecile, she's also amazing. The whole team was so great and became like a family. I miss them all dearly. And I watch whatever they do, and hopefully we'll get to do something more together. But I think at the end of the day, it's like the word. I think it's seen in the show. I think you can tell how much we all fell in love with each other, and especially in the BTS and all this. It's like we're all like truly in celebration of this thing, and it's so nice to finally see it out there and people having their opinions on it and getting to see all of my now new friends' work. Mm.
And on that cast relationship, like how did you all bond together in New Orleans? And do you have a favorite behind the scenes memory that you can share?
Um, Honestly, every single day was beautiful. It's like so crazy. Even just like moaning with each other, you're kind of like, oh, it's 40 degrees and well, Celsius and it's like it's hot, it's weather. Um, I remember we all went go-karting one time at the very beginning. That was quite fun. But honestly, one of my favorite memories, like behind the scenes, is like me and Blake would go and golf a lot. And when the strike happened, everyone left to New Orleans, and I stayed. I was like, I'm just gonna see what happens. I'm just gonna try and go, kind of stick around. And then And then yeah, me and Blake started playing golf like pretty regularly, and it's like Blake's now one of my greatest friends. And how lucky am I that I've got a boy from Alabama on the other side of the world that like I'm just obsessed with. And same with Dom as well. Like to be fair, I've made so many great friends on this job that'll be my life forever. But I have to say, behind the scenes, like golfing with Blake. And one of my actual favorite memories was the red dress parade, where me, Max, and all of our friends took part in the New Orleans red dress party where we always put red dresses on and went dancing. I love a dance. Also Mardi Gras. I got to do Mardi Gras, which is crazy. I got to do Mardi Gras on a float with Greg Copeland, which was pretty crazy. And my mum was over. I flew my mum to New Orleans, and she was there, and she was like part of the parade and all, and she got to meet everyone from the crew. And me and Greg did like the parade with Dale, and like it was like 12 hours like throwing beads. I was like, this is the most insane experience of my life. Like, and that's the first thing everyone asked me about New Orleans. Interesting. People go, did you do Mardi Gras? I was like, I did a float. I was on the float. That was kind of cool. Yeah.
Those are one of the things that you will never forget. I'm curious between you and Blake, who's the better golfer?
I think when I started, I'd never played. Blake was way better than me, but I know I'd spank Blake now. Like I've been locked in, ready to. He got me obsessed, to be honest. Then I was very lucky that I went straight to another job after Vampire after Boots. And Blake had always said this beautiful thing to me when he was convincing me to play golf, which was like, wherever you go for a job, you spend most time on your own. Like, I'm alone 98% of my life, like traveling, work, whatever. And golf's something you can just do on your own. And I remember like ringing and being like, oh, I've carried the golf with me. I'm just playing golf on my own. And he was like, oh, you're going to beat me when you get back. And I was like, I know, I am. We're still ready. We're still waiting. We're still waiting for our rematch, but it'll come. Yeah, we make a great team. I should say that instead, shouldn't I? Would be any 2v2s out there. Me and Blake got it.
Next time, hopefully, in future seasons, you can take your cast members out there and
Yeah,
show them
hopefully.
who's the better one. But I
I
wanted
did
to
text
talk.
Blake. I text Blake. I was like, I really would like to go back and work, but I'd also like to play golf again.
You're like, you'll just have to meet up just for the golf
Yeah, yeah,
dates,
that's what it
right?
is. Yeah. Bit of a flight, but yeah.
You will appear in the upcoming short film, The Intimacy Coordinator. What can you share about this project and your character and getting to reunite with your Vampire Academy co-star, Louisa Connolly-Burnham?
I'm super excited. I'm excited that it's happening. Start filming very soon, actually. Currently in prep. Uh, no, I think Louise is extremely talented, very, very talented. I'm very fortunate that she wanted me to be part of it. It's gonna be quite nice. I'm quite excited to see what I can do in like a minimal amount of time as well. Like I've not done anything in a short scale for a little bit, which is really interesting. Script's super strong, super challenging, and I think it's definitely going to be talked about, which I think all good cinema should be. But yeah, it's very it's quite humbling really that you get that you make these beautiful friends and you get to do this, get to create something together. I'm super super excited. I'm playing an actor, which is really interesting. I've never done that before, so that's going to be an interesting experience. But no, super. I'm very lucky that I get to go and do it. It's the only thing on my radar right now, so all the tension there, and hopefully be a quick turnaround and we'll get it done. We'll make some magic. Hopefully, that's the plan. But yeah, no, like, I'm like a couple of weeks away from filming, so I'm like deeply anxious right now. That's what always happens. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Can I even act? Like, what's it gonna look like? And this is actually my favorite stage of it all. It's this thing of like, what's it gonna look like? I have no idea yet, which is quite cool.
I think it must be very thrilling for an actor, but I was looking at the synopsis and it's so intriguing because it really blurs the line between personal and professional. And
Mhm.
as you know, in the film industry, like the intimacy coordinator is so important to protecting so many on set. So it'll be interesting to dive into that from, two different kind of perspectives in this short film.
Yeah, I think. It's like I did a very daring film called Blue Film that's caused some like polarizing things. Obviously, everyone's been very, very kind about my performance, but the subject matter itself is very intense. But it's that thing of like you never tell anyone how to feel. You got to let them decide for themselves, and that's what it's about creating opinion and stirring something, like allowing people to feel something. And I think Louisa's short is going to do that. Also, we're exploring some themes that I think are not massively there's not a massive amount of media on them. We're talking about like men being made to be uncomfortable, and it's like we're talking about positions of power, and we're talking like, it's not a specific, it's not like a comment on anything specific. It's like we're putting an idea out there and using certain things to like give it a way in, make it accessible for screen. And by doing that, sometimes you have to be a little bit bolder. But Louisa's so intelligent, and she's remarkable. So I think she can handle it with care. We've got a full team on it that all wants it to do well, and they, it's not lost on us that we need to tread the line and make something exciting but dangerous. Mm.
And it's all about creating dialogue at the end of the day. So I hope that you have a good time on that shoot. I
Thank
know
you.
that you said before the Lord of the Rings trilogy gave you nightmares when you were young, but now is one of your favorite series. Can you name all the members of the Fellowship of the Ring?
Oh my God. Gimli, Legolas, Aragorn, Boromir, Gandalf, Pippin, Mary, Frodo, Sam. Is that it?
Yeah,
Legolas.
I think you got all nine. Yeah, no hesitation. You can just
Yeah.
rip them off.
Do you know what? I actually just finished the book like 4 weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago. I was like, I love the films so much. I would love to have played Aragorn, so bad. I actually really would have liked to have played Isildur in the series, but I think, whoever does it is great. But yeah, there's a couple of characters there that I would be, yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Did
yeah,
you
no,
do
I
any auditions for that series?
I never got to audition for the series. I think I just finished Vampire Academy when the first season came out, and I'm not really read for anything else on it. It's a complicated one because I think it's a series that I care about so much. Like, I always just make this joke about, oh, I play a door handle on it. But like I think I love it so much that I'm kind of like, oh, it'd have to be a specific character, I guess. And the right thing will come, but I do love Lord of the Rings. Yeah. The book is so good. Have you read, like, I keep saying to everyone, I was like, the book is so amazing. I didn't realize how good the book was. Like, I get it now. Well, also, like, shout out to like the screenplay because they have taken like the best bits of this book and made it into something magnificent. It's like, and it really stands the test of time for me. Uh, yeah, I'm such a nerd when it comes to Lord of the Rings. But it was
Who is
good.
your
God,
favorite character?
um, oh God, they all have. I think they all represent different things. I think Sam is actually the hero of the story, and I think it's really reinforcing the books. How to be a true friend. Aragon, I think, obviously is definitely up there since a kid. I think I was like, do I want to be him or do I want to marry him? Which one is it? I was like, I want to be him. Like, I think he has all the traits that men should aspire to have. I think he's completely a noble. I think he's a very noble character. But then Gandalf obviously is a massive standout because his dialogue is so great, and Ian McKellen could actually read the yellow pages, and it would be fantastic. But yeah, I don't know. I think they all add to something. But I think off the top of my head, I would always say Aragon. Like that was always the one that left the most impression on me when I was a kid. Um, Max does the best Gollum impression you've ever heard, which is a little bit of insider scoop. And every time I say to everyone, "Yo, Max, do the thing," he's like, "No," but like it's amazing. If you ever get a chance to persuade Max to do the Gollum impression, it's mind blowing.
I hope I get to hear it one day. But yeah, I watch the movies and those are some of my favorites. And the acting is so amazing. The characters, of course. I have one more question for you, our signature question. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
Do you know what? I had like a really like boring answer, and then I have like an arty answer, I guess. I think flavor wise, I'm just obsessed with Biscoff. It's like my crack. It's like that's the one thing that calls me in. But if I could be a flavor of ice cream that like people could have it and be like it made them feel, I would just like to be peace. Like I'd like people to like, oh, I want that taste of peace, and then like that's what I would want to be like, just like, oh, tranquility. That would be a nice feeling to put people at ease. I want what that tastes like. It tastes different to everyone else, doesn't it? Like for me, it's an Americano with some honey in it. For my mum, it's an Earl Grey. For my stepdad, it's a beer. Like, I don't know what that piece is for everyone, but yeah, that for me, whatever it is that makes people go, I'm relaxed. That's the flavor I want to be. People pleasing. That's what we call it. We call it people pleasing ice cream.
I feel like that's just such a poetic answer. I like it, and such a nice way to end things off. Kieran, you are so good in boots. I hope you
Thank-
haven't lost that electric feeling you first had at 16 putting on the leather T-Birds jacket for the first time. I know you never saw Kaneki to
Yeah.
fruition, but maybe in the future you can revisit Grease Lightning. But until then, I'm so excited for what's to come with your poetry and upcoming projects, your boxing script, which we didn't get to chat about today, but hopefully we can
Next
catch
time.
up in the future. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so, so much. Your questions and your time have been very much appreciated. And I hope we get to do it again. And yeah, thank you genuinely from the bottom of my heart. You're great. You're great. I loved it. Thank you.
My pleasure. For all those watching, make sure to catch Kieran as Slovacek in Boots. Season 1 is out now on Netflix. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Mwah.